Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to IAP2's learning webinar, monthly learning webinar. We're always super excited when we do these webinars, and I know we've got a lot of interest in our presenters today who are going to be presenting on Make It Interesting. So a big welcome from IAP2 USA, IAP2 Canada, and of course we always welcome our members from IAP2 Australasia. We know that you get up really early to attend these events in both Australia and New Zealand, so a very big welcome, big shout out to you as well. So Drew, I'm going to hand it over to you for just a minute, just to provide us with some housekeeping, and then I'll get on and introduce Sam and Jamie.
And as we've told you in the email that went out just before, there's going to be something a little bit different here. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But right now, let's just get into some of the basic points here. All your microphones are going to be muted. So if you've muted yourself, please unmute yourself, and we'll take care of that here. If you've got a question, you can raise your hand, click that little hand icon on the control panel there, and we'll come to you when it's time to ask questions. Or, of course, if you want to ask a question, just type it into the question box, and we'll come to your question at an appropriate time. This is being recorded, so if you need it for professional development purposes, just want to go back over to hear a couple of things again, see a couple of things again, this is going to be a very visual piece as well today. By all means, you can get that. We'll send you the link afterwards. There's also some collateral material that our presenters, Jamie and Sam, have provided to us, and we'll be passing that on to you as well. We also have a survey that we will send out to you afterwards, and we'd appreciate if you just take a few minutes. They're general questions about the webinar itself, any ideas you got for future webinars. We need the feedback. We love to get the feedback because it helps us improve the webinars as we keep on going. They become very successful, and one of the reasons has been the input, the consultation from all of you taking part. So please take a few moments and fill that in. And I think that pretty much covers everything on this end, Amelia, so I will hand it back to you to introduce our guests.
Thanks so much, Drew. Really appreciate it. And as Drew said, we really do thank you for your ongoing participation and your engagement, because we're getting lots of people on these webinars now. And in fact, today, as I was saying to Sam and Jamie, we're full. We are anticipating up to 100 members on today's call. So this is exciting, and especially given that we're trying something new and different. But enough of that. Let's start by introducing Sam and Jamie. So as JLA's multimedia specialist, Sam Beresky is a key member of the firm's new media efforts. Since joining JLA, Sam has inspired a commitment to expand the reach of public information by using video, using an array of storytelling and illustrative techniques. JLA's videos have been shown internationally at film festivals and national conferences. They have won awards in communication excellence from multiple professional organizations and have been viewed hundreds of thousands of times. Wow, Sam, that's impressive. Anyway, Jamie is JLA's communications specialist. Coming from a background as a professional editor and graphic designer, she provides strategic communications guidance to JLA's clients, including strategy and messaging, tailored content for specific audiences and media, and consistency and quality control. Jamie's goal as a public involvement practitioner is to use clear, compelling communications to pique interest, foster understanding, and inspire involvement. So we're now going to hand this over to Jamie and Sam, who you can see. I hope many of you can actually see them in their video cam. So hey there, over to you to talk a little bit more, and then we're going to let them into why this is a different presentation today.
Thanks, Amelia and Drew. I just wanted to add that just a bit of background. I came to this field to public participation from a master's degree in urban planning from the University of British Columbia, which is oddly where I learned how to make video and start telling stories and engage the public with the use of video.
And I was just going to follow up on what Amelia mentioned. Is I came to public involvement from an editing and a graphic design background. I worked for marketing and communications agencies in the U.S. and in Adelaide, Australia. And when I moved back to Portland and joined JLA, I had to learn about the wonderful world of public involvement and the unique approach that we bring to projects. But I still found that my communications background is relevant, especially strategizing each piece of communications by approaching it with a creative brief, having a focus on target audiences and key messages, and using branding to promote better project recognition. So I have found that this approach is still relevant to PI, and that we're bringing this information to the webinar today.
And we both work for JLA Public Involvement. We're based in beautiful Portland, Oregon. At least it's beautiful today. We work exclusively with government agencies to engage communities in decisions that affect them. There's about 20 of us here, various specialties, and that's about it. So we're going to try something a little different, as Amelia mentioned. We basically pre-recorded our presentation, so we're going to have you play a video, and it'll feel just like we're presenting live. At least that's the idea. We wanted to show a lot of videos, and we didn't want to lose the quality in the videos through the webinar. Anything else?
Yeah, so I think that's it. We hope you enjoy and find it interesting, and we'll come back after the webinar and answer questions and talk a little more. So
I believe we're going to throw it back to Drew, and he's going to post the link to the video. As you are watching the video, it's going to feel like the webinar presentation, so just be writing down your questions and comments for the discussion period after the video.
So here's what we have. This video is being posted on Vimeo, and I will send it to you. Look in the chat box, little orange talk balloon, if it's not already visible on your control panel. And I've just sent you the link. So click on the link. It will take you to Vimeo, and at the same time, you'll be able to stay in the webinar, so you can watch it just toggle back to the webinar from time to time. But enjoy the video. It runs about 40 minutes, so we will reconvene here at 11:47, let's say. 11:47 Pacific time, 2:47 Eastern, and I don't know what that is in Newfoundland. So let's watch the video.
So thanks, everyone. We're looking forward to you joining us back in about 40 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Hello again. This is Sam.
And Jamie.
And we are here today to show you how to make your communications better.
In the broadest aspects of communication, much work has recently been done to clarify theories and make them workable. The era we are entering might well be characterized as an era of communication. This film will touch in the most elementary way some aspects of the subject that are of daily concern to all of us. Here is Claude Shannon's diagram by which almost any communication process can be schematically represented. The information source selects the desired message out of a set of possible messages. The transmitter changes the message into the signal, which is sent over the communications channel to the receiver, where it is decoded back into the message and delivered to the destination.
So that is a video, a communications primer video from 1953, and amazingly it goes on like that for more than 20 minutes of pure boredom, which is hopefully not what we're going to be doing today. So our presentation is make it interesting. So we all know good communications when we see them. We know good design. Why don't we do it all the time? Sometimes it's, government is seen as bureaucratic. We're focused on the facts. We're also competing with a bombardment of messages and media that our customers have to digest every day. We're also competing with ad agencies with big budgets. Today we're going to give you some ideas for how to get your project noticed.
In talking about how to get noticed, we've decided to present 4 approaches to communications that can help shape the way that we communicate. These would be in addition to PI best practices that we all follow every day and think about in developing our projects. They're ways of helping us break out of our mold and to question ourselves to make our content better. So the first point we wanted to make is to provide layers of information. This is all about using media and methods all of the media and methods that are appropriate for a project, tailoring messages and keeping them simple, and linking content and letting people explore on their own. Secondly, telling a story. This is to help people connect to your project on a personal level, and stories are really a way that people like to receive information, so using that. Next, creating experiences that matter. And this is about curating well thought out interactions with your project, leaving attendees or participants well informed and satisfied with their experience and wanting to continue to be engaged with the project. And finally, making it fun. This is really self-explanatory, and we'll just cover a few examples and a few key points later on in the presentation. Finally, I just wanted to note that all of these things and approaches can be done across any tools and media, whether in person or online, or in video or in print. So with that, let's review some examples.
So here are some bad examples. How do bad communications happen? And by the way, these are all from some of my projects. It's business as usual, or revising to death, or design by committee, requirements to convey too much information. All of these examples that we're showing, they accomplish the job of communicating the message, but they really aren't all that interesting or engaging.
Here's another situation where communications followed function over form. For a Newburgh-Dundee bypass project, which was building a new highway, we presented this flyer and mailed it out. And it really accomplished a lot of the goals of our communications. It presented the information of what was happening when and maps of where things were happening and provided information in English and Spanish. But it really wasn't very engaging. So here's an example of something else we did for the same project, which was an advertisement in a newspaper. And it really needed to cut through all of the other messages and advertising that was being presented in that media. So this format is just a lot more visually engaging and friendly. So this accomplished the goals that were needed by this particular communications piece. And so here are some good examples from some of our clients around the region. The first one is this e-newsletter from Clean Water Services, which links up with their website. It's got a great design. It's very visually engaging. It has really good headlines that draw you in. And then once you click, it has great writing that tells the story and makes you want to continue to read. They find the story within their projects that's going to engage with their stakeholders. For example, this main story here is about using treated wastewater in a brew festival where all of the brewers had to use the treated wastewater in order to create their beer. Definitely an article that I wanted to read. And then here's another example from Metro, one of our regional governments. It's the Big Backyard publication, and it's available in print in really nice, big, well-designed format, and by email and online, and it's nice to click through and easy online. It has high-quality photos and large font and really engaging articles that are well-written and tell the story. We wanted to share these examples because they show that both good and bad communications can come directly from public agencies as well as from PI professionals. And no matter who it comes from, the goal of our communications is to make it interesting.
Thanks, Jamie. Again, it's about making things interesting. This is Jane Public. This was from a comprehensive plan update for the city of Portland. We all think a comprehensive plan update is exciting, but the general public might not even understand it. So we try to make it interesting. We created a superhero. Jane Public was our superhero. She helped tell the story.
Now let's get a little more in depth about our themes. The first one is providing layers of information. Clients often want to make all materials standalone pieces with every possible piece of information included. But really, every piece of information does not need to contain every bit of information about a project. It's like the take a horse to water scenario. We can provide all the information we want to stakeholders, but we can't make them take it in, which they're especially not going to do if it's complicated or cumbersome. So if we do our job, what we'll really do is pique people's interest and then provide resources where they can seek out more information. So providing layers of information is about making it digestible and relevant. Digestible means short, specific, and simple, and relevant means customized to the audience and media. And it's about taking advantages of the strength of each medium. Use information repositories like websites or fact sheets to provide as much project information as people might want to know. FAQs are also a good way to provide information. And then each piece can drive to those information repositories and let people explore for the information they want on their own.
For this first video, this was the Transportation System Development Charge video, we needed to educate the general public about how development helps pay for transportation and get feedback on what those fees are and what kinds of projects they pay for.
With so much development happening all over Portland, have you ever wondered how all those new buildings impact our transportation system? All new developments pay Transportation System Development Charges, or TSDCs. These are one-time fees paid by developers when they build something new. The fee covers part of the cost of building our transportation system, things like roads, sidewalks, bike lanes, and public transit infrastructure. TSDCs are only one piece of the bigger puzzle that helps fund the resources that all Portlanders use. In addition to TSDCs, developers pay fees to help build parks, sewer, and water infrastructure. The fees are based on how many trips the new development will create. For example, a single-family home will have much less impact than a large grocery store, so the fee is substantially less for a home. The greater the impact a new development will have on our transportation system, the higher its rate. So new developments pay fees to improve our transportation. But where do those fees go? They pay for specific projects that are on the TSDC project list. The list is updated every few years with input from the public. Each project on the list is expected to be built using a combination of TSDC funds plus other funding from grants or other sources. Recent projects that were built using TSDC fees include new sidewalks on 136th Avenue, parts of the MAX system, improvements to Northeast Cully Boulevard that enhanced pedestrian and bike safety. TSDCs are just one tool that helps pay to build Portland's transportation system, along with federal and state grants, gas tax revenues, local taxes you pay, and other sources. The city is currently updating the way it assesses TSDCs and the rate at which developers are charged. It is also updating the list of projects that TSDC revenues can fund. We want a list of projects that Portlanders actually want, that benefit all parts of the city and meet the needs of our diverse communities. And we want a list of projects that have grants or other financial support, so it's more likely that these projects actually get built. So how can you get involved? This summer and fall, city staff will be meeting with community organizations and advisory committees that address bike, pedestrian, freight, and transit needs, as well as meeting with neighborhood organizations. In the fall, we'll hold public meetings and online surveys to get input from you and your neighbors. The Portland City Council will make final decisions on the updates and is expected to finalize and implement the amendments by mid-2017. It is our hope that the updated TSDC program will make it easier to build Portland's transportation system to benefit all residents.
There's a lot of very technical information in the Transportation Development System Charge video. The project team they wanted to put all the fees in the video, a full project list, and all the facts, all the figures, everything that all of the details, but we don't need all of the facts in every piece of public information. We made the video to really pique the interest of the public, to get the foot in the door, so to speak, just to get the public interested in our project and learn more. This next one is the Corvallis Transportation System Plan. Instead of trying to reach everyone, we tried to reach specific users, bike riders, transit users, drivers, and college students. The city of Corvallis is a small college town with a very large university, so we're targeting those students. We put posters up around campus, we had a print ad, we had an online ad, and we also made a series of 4 videos targeted at specific users on social media. This one is the bike pedestrian focused video.
I mostly ride my bike to work and back, and when I run errands, get groceries, I take my car. But if it's downtown, I like to walk there. It's very beautiful outside.
Biking is the best way I found because there's so many bike lanes in this community.
Around the neighborhood, we do a lot of walking, errands downtown.
Lots more bike infrastructure, although it's a wonderful city for biking. It's like one of the best ones in the country, so I don't want to diss it at all about that. But, you know, more places to lock bikes, more places where you know your bike will be safe.
To have people walking and biking and skateboarding, you really have to have a little more space.
The bike lanes, I feel like, should be a little bit bigger for, you know, people who have trailers or things that they pull along so that it's safer.
Hi, I'm Mary Steckel, Public Works Director for the City of Corvallis. Whether you walk, take transit, bike, or drive, we're all using Corvallis' transportation system. It's important to the city that our system meets the growing needs of community members, now and into the future. The city is partnering with ODOT to update our transportation system plan and develop a transit development plan. This project can only be successful with input from the community. How would you improve Corvallis' transportation system? Get involved. Let us hear from you. We look forward to your ideas and to working together to build the future of transportation in Corvallis.
Again, it wasn't all project information, but just a limited amount of information to get specific audiences engaged.
For the next project, we were engaged to document and communicate an entire sustainability program for a new light rail line here in Portland, from design through to construction. The result of the project was a database of more than 300 individual sustainability practices. There were a lot. We also developed printed summary reports that were kind of like magazines. They were visually stimulating, they were nice to read, but it was still a lot of information, and people really don't love to read long copy these days. So what we created at the end of a project was an online executive summary. We used Prezi to create it and imagined it as kind of a choose-your-own-adventure tool. It literally provided layers of information where you could click through and explore information at your own pace. The aim of the tool was that it had to be customizable to broad audiences and uses. So this particular presentation is able to be self-guided, for example, on a website by stakeholders, or used as a presentation. And that's what the client has really done with it a lot. He has used it at large industry conferences and in small meetings with international counterparts who speak very little English. What he does is he's able to select the content that's most meaningful in the presentation without having to develop a new presentation every time. The Prezi includes links to reports and data and videos so that people can dig deeper if they want more information.
All right, so that was layers of information. Now let's tell a story. So I know in the IAP2 crowd, there's a lot of policy wonks out there, and we all know that facts are exciting, but just telling the facts might not connect with a broader audience. It might not connect with the general public. So we need to tell the story of those facts. We need to find that story, or find a specific story within the facts. This video that's playing in the background here is from the Southwest Corridor story. It's about a new light rail line that's going to be built in Portland, Oregon. There's lots of facts and figures. It's going to cost, a certain amount of money. It's going to have a certain ridership. It will be built by a certain date. But really, what's a story that we want to tell? What do people want to know? Where is it going to go? How does it fit into the rest of the system? Again, it's about piquing people's interest and getting them interested in your project and allowing them to dive deeper on their own. Again, every piece doesn't have to answer all of the questions. In fact, they should lead people to ask questions. So next, I want you to write down, so I'm going to show you two videos back to back, and they're about the same project, almost the same story. And I want you to be thinking as you're watching, what is the difference in the storytelling techniques? And when we come back later at the end of this video and we have a little Q&A, we can discuss those storytelling differences. Just think about the different styles and how the story was told and how the information was told. And so here's the first video.
Water is vital to the livability of every community. Delivering that water to homes and businesses requires construction of pipelines that occasionally pass through areas of historic significance. This was the case when the Lake Oswego Tigard Water Partnership planned a new water pipeline through Lake Oswego's Old Town neighborhood. The partnership wanted to be sure construction happened in an appropriate and sensitive manner. Fully committed to honoring the history of the native peoples that inhabited this land, The partnership worked with the State of Oregon's Historic Preservation Office and the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde to develop a plan. The plan involved 2 important phases. First, a team of archaeologists conducted a comprehensive exploration and recovery effort to collect and curate artifacts along the pipeline route. An analysis of the recovered artifacts allowed the archaeologists and tribal representatives to reconstruct the history of when and how the area was used by Native Americans. Some of the artifacts found included stone tools for hunting, processing animals, and drilling holes, as well as jar, shoe, and writing slate fragments. In the second phase, tribal artists created a unique sculpture and exhibit interpreting the cultural history of the area. To assist in selection of the artwork and interpretive signage, an advisory committee comprised of project partners was formed. The committee reviewed, evaluated, and selected the sculpture and signage for installation in George Rogers Park. The sculpture, entitled The Man from Cossack-Shicks, tells how the head man of a village traveled to Willamette Falls in search of food during a particularly hostile winter, where cold and starvation threatened his people. He returned with eels and instructed the people on how to prepare and cook them. Those who followed his instructions survived. Those who did not starved and were turned to stone. At a special dedication event in 2015, members of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde delivered the sculpture from the Willamette River by canoe. Tribal members sang traditional songs, played drums, and dedicated the sculpture with prayers. Lake Oswego Mayor Kent Studebaker, Tribal Council member Denise Harvie, sculpture artist Travis Stewart, Historical Preservation Officer Dave Harrelson, and Partnership Director Joel Komarick helped introduce the statue to the community and offered their special thanks to those involved in the creation of the Cultural Resources exhibit. Through this collaboration, a one-of-a-kind piece of artwork highlighting Lake Oswego's unique and vibrant Native American history will be enjoyed and treasured for many years to come.
And here's the second video. Enjoy.
The name of the piece I'm working on is The Man from Cossack-Shicks. That's an old Clackamas word for a village that was in that area. My name is Travis Stewart. I am an artist that works here for the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. I'm working on a project for the Lake Oswego Tigered Water Partnership. It's a story about a chief that lived on the river there. That whole kind of area around Lake Oswego was known as the starving place. They had some particularly bad weather one year, and a lot of people were dying and starving to death. So there's a story about this head man that went to the falls there at Oregon City and brought back a bunch of eels, and he came back and he taught everyone how to take care of these eels and prepare them and to do it in a proper way so that they'd live. It's actually a sculpture of that head man done in our Columbia River and Willamette Valley carving style. Where it's positioned on the river, it has a nice canoe landing, which was the ancestral waterways and highways of the people that lived around there. Anybody traveling up or down river, this would be the first thing they come into contact with, would be this guy. It represents an homage to the village and the people that live there. I mean, the world's always depended on water, and it has for generations and generations, especially now that it's coming into shortages of it. People realize how valuable that is. And I think that the opportunity to have it included in a project that is going to provide water to people, I think, is really special.
Think about those differences in the videos. We'll come back at the end of this and discuss them. We'll have a live poll and talk about those storytelling differences.
And speaking of interesting stories, don't we all just find raw sewage really interesting? JLA has been working with the Clark Regional Wastewater District in Southwest Washington to communicate sewer stewardship messages to their customers. These are messages that their client base doesn't normally resonate with. They're pretty boring, they're pretty stodgy. Our goal is to make it interesting, approachable, understandable, and funny without making fun of those who do the important work. So we've created characters that relate to each of the important messages and feature them in materials and comic strips that appear in bi-monthly newsletters. And the comic strips each portray a little snippet of a stewardship message that's important for people to know. The success of this campaign can really be shown in the adoption of these characters by the staff of this wastewater district. They've adopted them as mascots and they love them. Without any prompting from us, they've made them into Halloween pumpkins and parade floats, and someone even sewed stuffed versions of these characters that are taken to events. Another benefit has been that we've been able to use these characters for many different communications materials. For example, we developed a coloring book, and it was really easy to create, very quick to create, because we were really just repurposing materials that already existed.
So you've made some great communication pieces. You've put in the work and told some great stories. You've gotten people interested in your project. But now what? They show up to an open house or click online to get feedback and they're totally overwhelmed with information again. It can't end with great communications. You have to create experiences that matter.
It's such a rich sensory experience to see this huge old machinery and feel the spray of the water on your face.
But it's wonderful. The falls are awesome when you get close.
I'm here today because I live about a half a mile away from the falls, and to me this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something right and to take back the falls as much as possible back to its original state.
The project and the site has a lot of importance, I think, not just to the city, but just to connecting back to nature.
But everywhere you go to look at the river and the falls, you're seeing really far away. I think the ability to get close to it and experience, the sounds and the smell and all that, I think would be, and to have that be combined with like everyday life, I think would be really amazing.
I would like to see a connection to Kanema. I would like to see a bike path and bike racks.
For me, the idea of building a whitewater park in a city gives the opportunity to kids, to all these people, to be in contact with nature, to adventure themselves into something that's challenging and healthy at the same time, and could change so many people's lives.
I'd love to see the culture, both the industrial culture as well as certainly the Native American culture preserved and brought back, and really to enjoy the beauty of the river and the falls.
I want it to be very accessible for me to go walking, especially at night. I want it to be pleasant. At that station we kind of discussed if there are some interesting lights that kind of make it remarkable at night.
I like the idea of having access for the public both down from the heights and through the city to a river walk that's the best in the country.
Like there was a beautiful picture over here of some of these grain elevators with murals on them, and I thought that was wonderful in the way that art really wakes you up. And there was another picture over there that I liked a lot. It had a spiral-shaped sort of staircase, I think it was, going down, and I could really imagine wonderful imaginative architecture that wakes people up, that evokes designs that are already in nature.
This whole thing's got so much potential. I love the river walk, I love the falls, I love the potential.
So some of the things you may have noticed about the types of feedback that people gave in that video are that they were quite knowledgeable of the options, that they seemed to have a personal connection to the falls, and that they looked like they were having fun. The interviews came from a public event that we did for this project, and the goal was to get people to think broadly about the project at a very high level and to give feedback about how they feel about the project, because it was very early on, while also providing information. So we approached this event by providing a variety of activities, using lots of imagery to help people kind of picture what was going on and create a vision for themselves of what they desired at the site. We placed a fun activity, usually called a kids activity, but it's fun for everybody, front and center at the event. And you may notice in this photo that we also had beer.
So, and Jamie really hit it on the head there, that it wasn't just an open house, it was an event. People came to this and were really excited about the project. And the video, and videotaping people like that at an event, it allows people to give their feedback, and it gives them voice. It lets them recognize that they are being heard by people, but then you can turn that around and use those videos later on in the project to solicit feedback from other people.
So after the event, we took it on the road and we continued the experience that had been started at the event. The feedback cards were these fun, colorful cards that were functional and linked to each theme, but also visually appealing. And we had clear comment boxes where they looked really pretty as people put their comments in. We also had fun areas that drew people in. We used AstroTurf to designate the areas and also just make it look fun. This next project is for Lower Reedville. It was a long-term community visioning process for an unincorporated county area that lacked identity and a cohesive voice. And part of the visioning process was to establish that voice and also engage people in a project. But as being a long-term project, it was hard for people to engage. So we started the campaign by giving a voice and identity to the community. Then the PI process was quite in-depth, but it tried to provide meaningful interactions and fun interactions. And it all started with something as simple as I am. This next project was a water improvement project in a rural community in Southwest Washington. The Citizen Committee was charged with creating a problem statement and a vision for the project. Rather than flip charting and creating meeting summaries, which we did to a certain extent, we hired a graphical recorder who participated in the visioning meeting and created this really visual example of what the committee wanted out of the process. This was used throughout the project. It was brought to every committee meeting and they continued to reference it. And it was also brought to broader public meetings, and people really spent a lot of time with it, looking at it and engaging with the messages that were on there. And it was completed in one meeting, so even though there was an investment in developing it at the beginning, it was a resource that continued to be useful throughout the project.
And don't be afraid to think outside the box. On the Washington Park Reservoir project, the traditional open house was kind of failing us. The last one that we had about 6 people show up, and we had 12 staff, so it was kind of a waste of staff time. So we thought outside of the box, and we decided to open up these historic reservoirs for public tours instead of having a traditional open house. And we gave tours to 50 or 60 people that became very engaged in the project, very knowledgeable, and a lot of the neighbors, the local neighbors, really became champions of the project because they got an in-depth knowledge of the project itself.
So this is a project we talked about earlier. It's the Newburgh-Dundee Bypass, a new freeway. And this is an example of using the right media and content to take advantage of the opportunities we had available. So this is a sign that we were able to post in a local park where people could stand and actually look and watch the bypass being built. They were being very impacted by it. And while their kids played on the playground, they could stand there and get a lot of information about the project. And the graphics on the sign really showed exactly what people were seeing right in front of their very eyes. So our final theme is Make It Fun. And the main point we wanted to make is that fun is important. Everybody likes it. It's really the underlying thing in almost everything we've been talking about. It's not just for kids, and it's intangible, but it makes a big difference to the success of your communications. So here's a few examples of things that we have just thought were fun. At a public meeting, we decided to use bouncy balls for a priority activity where people got a certain number of bouncy balls and then put them in containers. We really chose bouncy balls because we didn't want to use coins or chips because we didn't want to link it with money, but we wanted something that people could touch and drop into a container. And the outcome was that people just loved it. Everybody had a smile on their face when we handed them the bag of bouncy balls. And then this is an example of a giant floor map that we used for the Lower Reedville project. And again, people of all ages loved to engage with this map and to find their house on the map and to find places that they knew of and to link places together, and it really gave good feedback to the project team and made people engage with the project at the event. Here's an example of a county road project we worked on, and we were having a fairly traditional open house. We decided to put this road down on the floor really for practical reasons because it was a very small space and there were a lot of different stations that we wanted people to attend in a certain order. I think the fun element of this project really helped in a project that had previously had some contention and negativity associated with it. And having this road and these road signs seemed to set the scene for people to give their most positive and productive feedback possible.
Next, we made a series of videos for the Portland Water Bureau for the Disaster Preparedness Month, and we made them short and we made them fun.
I'm Jamal Folsom, Emergency Manager for the Portland Water Bureau. In the event of a natural disaster, one of the most important things you can have on hand is water. The Portland Water Bureau has taken several steps to better prepare for major events, such as securing our water system and building water storage. During an earthquake, everyone has a role. What's your role? The incomparable Darcel Fatine needs absolutely no introduction.
Introduce me anyway.
Distinguished audience, I give you Darcel Fatine.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. So we have exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the glamorous dressing room where Darcel is preparing tonight. As you'll see, we've got wigs, makeup, gowns, and also an emergency supply of water. Even at work, you can be prepared.
There's my water supply. And thank God I have my rhinestones. Without them, I wouldn't want to survive.
There you have it. Darcel is prepared. Show us where you store your water at facebook.com/Portland Water Bureau. Learn more about safely storing your emergency water at regionalh2o.org.
So Darcel is a local Portland celebrity. She has the longest running drag show in the United States and is the oldest drag performer in the world.
And just a few closing thoughts. Don't forget to advertise your plans. If you're going to have something fun at your event or have an activity, make sure you advertise it and flaunt it in your communications to get people there. Leverage your successes. If you've had a fun event, make sure to promote it before your next event and try to get people to share their experiences and get others involved. Like, for example, advertise a hashtag that's clearly displayed at open houses, or create "I rode the train today" stickers to encourage people to share when they've engaged with you. And finally, continue to use your assets. I think one of the biggest benefits of these approaches that we've talked about today is that they provide you with a lot of things that you can continue to use throughout your project. Make sure to use them as many places as possible, like via social media and on partners' websites. These sorts of tools allow for a really quick turnaround and lower budgets overall, even though they require development upfront.
And here we have one last video. Here are some superheroes. And remember, as soon as this video is done, click back to the webinar for discussion and polling.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of hands involved with water.
At the water treatment plant, we currently have 9 staff.
So I go weekly for the bacteriological samples.
We have approximately 17 reservoirs.
There's a new total coliform rule coming out.
About 10 pump stations.
And then other samples I do quarterly, some I do annually, some I do every 3 years.
It's kind of a mix between mad scientist, chemist, and a heavy equipment operator.
We're kind of just the superheroes that kind of go unnoticed. People just take water for granted.
I'm Carrie Duncan. I'm the manager for the Lake Oswego-Tigard Water Partnership Treatment Plant. The hardest thing about my job is that I can never really go home and just forget about the work. I'm always thinking about how and what we're doing to make sure that the water is safe. I'm always ready to run back into work, to be on the phone to deal with an emergency. It is really a job that doesn't end when you go home, that you're always thinking about.
We're constantly doing checks around town. We do a leak detection program to help find any leaks before they get too large. We have roughly about 30 main breaks a year. That's been going down over the years. When I started back in the early 90s, we were at 50, 60 main breaks a year, and that's through pipe replacement, better maintenance programs, flushing programs. That helps a lot with that.
A lot of the times the public will turn on their tap and the water comes out. They don't really think about how we treat it or what it goes through in order to get to their home. The only time that they really do notice is when something goes wrong. The thing that I like about this job is that all days are kind of different. And so I'll have my sampling days. I'll just go out to different sampling sites and collect from there. A lot of times I talk to residents or people passing by wondering what I'm doing, so I talk to them about water quality.
I just like the unknown. Every day is different. The multiple problems and scenarios and the change of water. Our big focus and concern right now is unidirectional flushing, cleaning out the water pipes throughout the city. With that comes finding broken fire hydrants, broken valves, valves that should be on but are off, dirty water calls, water main breaks.
I really do take a lot of pride in Lake Oswego and the water system here. We've got some of the best water in the state, and we're proud of that. The water treatment plant does a great job producing good water.
I think just ensuring that we supply a really high quality product to our residents and that it's something that they can't live without. You just can't live without water.
I tell my kids all the time about what I do at work, about how I keep the water safe for the community, about all of the people who are really working behind the scenes around the clock when we're not thinking about it, to make sure that anytime somebody turns on that faucet and turns on the tap, the water's going to be safe, it's going to be well tested, it's going to taste good, and it's a great source of pride.
Well, hello everybody. I know some of you may now be starting to come back online, and we're really looking forward to getting going in just a second. So Jamie and Sam, are you with us still?
We're here. We got some feedback that our audio wasn't very good, so hopefully the audio is okay.
We will talk loud.
Thanks. That's appreciated. I know some people were having a little bit trouble getting back hearing you. So thank you. I can hear you a little bit better, but keep leaning in. That would be fabulous.
Okay.
So I can see that we've got people starting to come back into the process. And so I'm gonna start talking in well, maybe a little bit more, but maybe actually, sorry, I'm going to talk now. I just want to thank everyone very much for trying this new approach with us. As you can see, for those of you that have just watched Jamie and Sam's presentation, there were a lot of videos. And Drew and I had an opportunity to take a look at them, and we thought, these are fabulous. We have to find a way to be able to share them. But our system that we use, we can't play videos directly on our webinar. So as good P2 practitioners, we put our head together and said, well, this should not stop us from really doing some good engagement and really giving other people the opportunity to see these. So this is what we came up with, so that we would run the webinar, send you the video, give you that opportunity to watch the video, and then come back and ask questions of Sam and Jamie. So I hope that you've enjoyed it. I know I've had the opportunity to see the video a couple of times now, and I always learn new things every time I see it. So Jamie and Sam, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate this. And I know there was an individual that had some problems, and we're going to be getting back with that individual. And the other thing everyone should know is that we are going to be combining the webinar and the video. So when we send you something out in the next little while, so it won't be quite as quickly as we normally do, but something in the next little while, you'll actually have the combined webinar with the video. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So Sam and Jamie, we have got questions starting, but how do you want to run this? Because I believe there's some poll questions there as well.
Yeah, there are. I don't know who's in control of the poll questions.
Well, Drew's in control of the poll questions, so
yes,
he has control. So maybe we'll get Drew to send out the poll question, and let's see who's back online and responding.
First of all, would you like to maybe set up this poll question, Sam and Jamie? Just explain to the people why we're doing this, because we're going to do 3 in a row really quickly.
Sure. Well, if you watch the video, you'll have seen 2 different video styles that we used for the Lake Oswego Tigard Water Partnership. And when Sam introduced it, he asked you to think about the differences between the videos and which style you liked best and why. We, at the IAP2 Montreal Conference, had a really great conversation about these videos, so we were trying to recreate that on this webinar, and that's what these poll questions are all about. So hopefully people are back with us at this time, and you guys can answer some questions about the videos and let us know what you think, and then we'll just have a discussion.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. And so we've got the poll questions up there now. Of the 2 water partnership videos we saw, which made you more interested in the project? Number 1, number 2, or were both the same? So if people could please start responding to that, that would be great. And Drew, we're going to get you to close that, and we'll see the response.
We did have some images, Drew, to go along with those to help people remember which one was which. But if we don't have the images,
looks like number 2.
That's okay. So we're
number 2 is the clear winner.
Number 2 is by far the clear winner at 60%, with number 1 getting 27% and 13% for the same. So let's hear question number 2, Drew. Which video was longer? Oh, I wonder how many people were watching. Okay, Drew, let's close that down. Let's see. So 60% think that number 1 is longer. So I imagine we're going to find out a little bit later from Sam and Jamie, but let's get on to number 3. Would you be able to tell someone what the video was all about in 1 sentence? Yes to 1, yes to 2, both, or neither. All right, everyone responding? Drew, let's shut it down and let's see. Oh, 59%, almost 60% said both, that they could respond. So Sam and Jamie, back to you, and let's get your thoughts, and then I'm going to start asking you lots of questions.
Well, one thing that I wanted to, it's actually a unique opportunity that we had 2 videos about the same topic but told in different styles. And it was interesting to show them back to back so people could see the different styles. The first video had a lot more information in it. It was a bigger video. There's more details, more project details. Well, the second one was more storytelling. It was basically a short documentary about one specific aspect of the project, that art piece. So it's a fun way to see the different styles of making videos and the messages that can be conveyed with those different styles. The length one is a trick question. They're actually within a couple of seconds of being the exact same length, but it seems that almost everybody does agree that the second one feels like it goes a lot faster. It's a smoother video, and part of that I think is that there's less information in it because it's a storytelling video, whereas the first video, lots of project details and things like that, just the facts essentially. have any other thoughts.
No, I think that's great.
Okay, thanks. So we're going to get into some of the questions that we're getting from people that have now watched the video, and I'm going to encourage many more people to send in questions. And if you want to raise your hand so that I can open up your mic, would be happy to do that as well. The first question does not surprise me, and it comes from Luke. What process did you need to go through to get approval for beer at that open house?
We had that question at the conference as well. It just was kind of a happy coincidence. We did want to make it an event, so the beer helped with that. But it was also we chose a venue that was a conference center because we wanted to make it feel like an event, and because of that, the conference center already had it set up that they could provide alcohol, and so we were just able to choose that that's what we wanted, and we wanted it to be among the things that we were serving.
We've had one other event where we could sell beer, and it was done with similar intent. We had the open house at a place that was actually a sports venue, so it made it very easy to. And we have live music as well. It made it easy to make an event, not just an open house.
Thanks very much, you too. Now, I will let you know that we are still having some people experiencing audio problems. Audio problems. We're trying to do our best, so our apologies if some of you are still having some problems with your audio. But let's carry on because it appears that other people are hearing us just fine. So here's another question from Julie. Can you give us some examples of how these campaigns measured engagement? Some examples of how the campaigns measured engagement.
We're trying to sort out the audio. Is this audio any better for everyone?
The one that you're speaking at right now?
Yeah, does that seem any clearer? It's hard for us because it's on headphones.
Yeah, we can hear you. As I said, it just seems to be one individual that's having trouble, and just keep speaking as clearly as you can.
Okay. Well, one of the ways that we tend to measure engagement, I mean, obviously we have people sign in at events and count how many people come. We almost always have an online component when we do different events and different engagements. For example, with open houses, we almost always hold an online open house as well, and this helps us track how many people are participating and responding. But it also is a bit of an equity issue in that people who aren't able to attend a physical open house can also come and participate online and get the same information. And then on project websites and via videos, we track clicks and number of people viewing it, and kind of track participation in that way too.
Thanks very much. So another quick question. Would love to know rough project costs to hire the visual artist who did the image note taking. What's your pitch to someone who does not understand cognitive science and not in quotes get which this is? Actually superior communications, but with a cost. So how do you market this? How do you sell it to your client? How do you get them involved? And how much does it cost? Thanks, Rudy, for that question.
Yeah, and there's kind of two answers. We are only, we've kind of just in the last year or two started getting into the visual meeting documentation, and that has a particular cost. I don't know off the top of my head what it is right now, but it had, I think one of the selling points for it is the same as any of these kind of good visual project communications, is that it costs more upfront, and it takes a little bit more work upfront and more thought, but then you end up with assets that you can continue to use throughout the project. So the visual meeting documentation, for example, we took it to all of the committee meetings and they continued to reference it and really remember what their original vision was, and we also took it to all the in-person events where people spent a lot of time with it, and we also used it in all the fact sheets and on all the websites.
And in some project videos as well. So it had a lot of staying power. We used it in all sorts of ways on the rest of the project.
So I think that the amount that visual people encourage people to engage is one way of selling it. And I also think that one of the arguments to be made is that these things really aren't that much more expensive than your traditional project approach. It's just that they're more front-loaded. They take more time at the beginning, but then as your project goes on, you can really turn things out quickly and just continue to reuse your assets. And generally, people engage more with the project because they recognize it. You're using the same branding and visuals over and over. And Sam had another interesting point about cost with those two videos, the Lake Oswego ones that we talked about earlier.
I did.
Did you did you already talk about that? The cost about.
Oh yeah. Just as a cost example, those two Lake Oswego videos that you saw back to back, they were actually roughly the same cost. The second one, which a lot of people think is the better one, it was more difficult to make, frankly, but cost-wise they're about the same. So you can do more with the same amount of money, I guess is the point of that. You just have to try harder.
Thanks. So from Katrina, can you give any advice on how to sell these ideas to a client? Because you provided lots of different ways to create interesting and innovative communication. But again, how do you get them to buy in?
I think part of what we were just talking about, that this approach is really going to engage people in a way that they want to be engaged. Another point that I think is a good one as far as selling it to the client is talking about equity and equitable service to our communities. One of the benefits of approaching communications in a visual and also an audience-centered way is that it reaches the audiences the way that they want to be reached. We're considering who our target audiences are, and if they're multicultural, we're talking to them in the voices that they want to be engaged with. And then also visual communications tend to be able to work better without language and require less verbal or written explanation of things. So emphasizing the equity or multicultural benefits of this sort of approach, I think is one way of selling it. And then also emphasizing the fact that really I don't think the budgets have to be that much different, but the outcomes tend to be a lot better.
Thanks. So from Luke, can you explain what an online open house is and what tool you used?
So, a few years ago, people coming out to in-person open houses, the numbers were just going down. People obviously have a very busy life, and they have a hard time coming out to a specific time and day to a location. So our efforts, our coworker Kaylin Schmaltz, he's really led the effort in online engagement. We tried to replicate the experience at an in-person open house online. So instead of just placing the boards from the in-person open house on the internet, we tried to make interactive experiences where somebody who's checking in online can see a discussion that would have been happening at the open house. We include videos in those to really add a human element. It's often a short introduction by, say, the project manager or something like that. It really adds a human element to these online open houses. What was the second part of that question? Sorry.
Just what tool did you use, Sam?
So we do create our online open houses. They're kind of something that Daily specializes in. We have kind of developed a system that we use. But they're basically websites that are just designed to be more like an online open house. So any website design platform can be used. If you would if you're interested in seeing some examples of the online open houses that JLA has created, you can go to openhouse.jla.us.com. I'm just going to type it into the chat bar. Let's see, or Drew, I'll send it to you.
Great. And I have to say, Jamie, whatever you just did, we can now hear you better. So,
maybe it's the fact that I'm not touching the mic anymore. I think anything I touch breaks.
I'm holding it closer to face now.
Thanks so much. So from Lauren, was the TriMet Prezi a pseudo online open house? If so, how did you incorporate engagement feedback into this format?
No, and I think that's one point to make, is that online open houses are really valuable when you want to get feedback. We have clients who like the format and ask us to do them just to present project information, but we have found that, you don't hold an in-person open house generally. There's different expectations for in-person open houses that just provide information versus ask for feedback. They have different formats, and I think it's the same online. So generally with an online open house, we will be asking questions. We'll be providing information and asking for feedback. And that Prezi tool was not a feedback tool. It was at the end of a project, and it was summarizing the information from the project. So it was just an information out tool, but it was interactive. So it was similar in that way.
Terrific, thanks. So from Debbie, just out of curiosity, which of the two videos was more successful?
Of the Lake Oswego videos, those two back-to-back?
Yeah.
The second one, they both had pretty good viewership. I think that they were both sent out to the full listserv for the project and posted online. So they actually had very similar numbers. But the feedback that we've heard, the second one, just about everybody preferred.
Excellent, thank you. Well, it looks as though we've come to the end of the questions, so I would encourage anybody else to send us more questions. We have just a few more minutes left, so I'm going to just introduce what's happening next month. So Jamie and Sam, hang tight. We're going to come back to more questions just while I let people know what they can expect next month. So coming up next month, we're going to present another Montreal encore called Facilitation Matters. With more and more P2 processes incorporating online engagement, it's becoming increasingly important to make sure that face-to-face sessions are properly facilitated. So Kate Bishop of the City of Guelph, Ontario, and Rebecca Southerns of Sage Solutions will share some insights they've gained on designing processes creatively and effectively. And this learning webinar is coming up on Tuesday, June the 13th at the usual time. So we're really enjoying bringing back the presentations from the conference, and as probably many of you know, these were the ones that we heard in the evaluation process that people would like to see again, or people would like to be able to share with their colleagues that weren't able to attend the conference. So Jamie and Sam, it's been such a pleasure to have you join us today. I really appreciate you hanging in there as we came up with a slightly new and different approach to running webinars. I really want to give a big thank you to all of our participants today for hanging in there with us while we tried something new and brought this to you. We like doing new things, so hopefully it worked. And I think there was a couple of glitches, but hopefully they're sorted out. I've got one more question for you. Did you integrate videos in your social media strategy?
I think we probably should both answer, but to me, videos are a major part of a social media strategy. They can be used on a project website, but they are really great to use on social media. They just make any social media campaign more widespread, and people tend to engage with them more.
And it's constantly changing. Like just a recent phenomenon that I have noticed is that now when you upload videos directly to Facebook, they'll play automatically without sound as people are scrolling through their news feed. So it started me thinking about how to make videos without sound. I always feel that sound is probably one of the more important aspects of the video, but I'm starting to rethink that. So, but then that's also the main way a lot of people watch videos now is on Facebook without sound. So, yeah, it is a main part of our social media campaigns, but we're also constantly rethinking it.
I think one more thing is that because of the aspect that Sam just talked about on Facebook, videos playing automatically, captioning has become a really big part of videos. It's always been important for us, particularly for people with, you know, disabilities where they can't hear the video, but also people who may prefer to read something on screen as opposed to hearing it. And so we have found that there is software out there to create captions that work really well with social media, and it's quite affordable. So it's something that we integrate into all of our videos, and quite often our videos are available in multiple languages, captioned in multiple languages. And we found that that's not a huge extra expense, and that really expands the reach on social media too.
It used to be, to caption, it used to be very expensive because we'd have to pay somebody to sit there and type it all out and then edit. Now the website that I found recently is called rev.com. I think that's what it is off the top of my head. And they're ridiculously affordable for captions. So it's kind of becoming, and really quick turnaround as well. So we're automatically doing all of our videos now.
You gotta love the P2 profession. It's changing all the time with all of the new technologies and approaches and techniques. And I really just want to say a big thank you to both of you. You've highlighted some of the new and different things that you're trying and you're using, and from what we've heard, you're getting a lot of success from it. And again, I want to thank all of the participants. So on behalf of IAP2 USA, IAP2 Canada, and
Amelia?
of course our colleagues with... Yes, Drew.
Sorry to break in, but I believe Sam and Jamie have one more thing for those who are still with us.
Oh my goodness, you do, and I totally forgot. Here I am saying thank you. Okay, Drew, thank you for coming
worries.
in. Okay, back to you, and then I'll thank you again because, hey, I can thank you lots of times. Sam and Jamie, let's let people know what they get for staying on longer.
Yeah, we won't take up very much more time, but we just wanted to offer the same giveaway that we gave away at last year's conference that we thought was a fun little tool. It's something to sit on your desk and help you just break out of your rut and give you fresh ideas whenever you need them. So it's called either a fortune teller or a cootie catcher, depending on where you're from. And our idea was, you know, if you need some inspiration, just put it together, pull up the flap, and it'll give you various ideas of ways you can make your project communications more interesting and better. So we're going to send you guys a link, and you can just download the little cootie catcher tool and cut it out and fold it up.
That sounds excellent. I always used that when I wanted to find out who my next boyfriend was going to be. I'm sure I used to play that when I was younger. Anyway, thank you very much for that. We'll definitely make sure that the people that are attending today's event get that link, and hopefully they can download it and go from there. Jamie and Sam, thank you very much on behalf of IAP2 USA, IAP2 Canada, and IAP2 Australasia. And as I said, a very big thank you to our participants. We hope that you've enjoyed this new approach. The videos were great, and we look forward to welcoming you back to our learning webinar in June. And just a quick reminder, Drew and others will be sending out this information to all of you so that you can use it for your ongoing professional development. Sam has very graciously offered to help us so that we can splice and dice both the webinar and the videos so that you're just getting one presentation from us, and then we'll go from there. So thank you. Any last words, Jamie and Sam, before we go?
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye now. See you next month.